Now, the problems of bringing fast internet to rural areas are of special interest in Scotland, given that outside the main centres of population there's a lot of wide open space. If politicians want to fulfil promises to connect everyone, the economics are challenging. Now an experiment is underway on the Isle of Bute to use old broadcast frequencies, freed up by the switch over to digital TV, to deliver super-fast broadband. Our reporter David Allison's been there to see it in action.
Good communications, whether the traditional ferry or super-fast broadband, are especially important for island communities. Cut off the ferry service and the island's in trouble. And in the modern world, if a rural area can't share the benefits of super-fast broadband, the impact is digital isolation. There's no question this is a beautiful place, but it's also a fairly remote one in a digital sense. More and more of us use devices like this to communicate, to share, to connect with the world, and if you don't have broadband, it's hard to take part. But at the southern end of Bute, a quiet revolution's underway, which is already transforming lives and ultimately aims to do the same across more of rural Scotland. For example, the local hotel almost became the pub with no beer because of the lack of broadband.
And with the internet that we had before, it was a nightmare. The page would always time out before we could do it. It was going to become very difficult to order beer, the way that the brewery and other suppliers are pushing us to use online ordering now. They don't really like you ordering over the phone, and their reps are obviously visiting less. So without the broadband, it was going to become difficult to place orders.
The experiment on Bute uses what's called white space, gaps in the form of broadcast airways which are increasingly available due to the switch over to digital TV. It works like this. A dedicated transmitter on the mainland beams a radio signal to an exchange building on Bute, which then provides broadband internet access to local residents at Kilcatton Bay. If it can be shown to work reliably, it's a much cheaper option for a rural community than using an undersea fibre optic cable, or having to rely on old-fashioned copper, which can currently only deliver broadband up to a range of about 5 kilometres.
This is a great technology for the point we're in at the moment. We're pushing fibre out as far as we can into the country, but what we've got is we sort of run up against economic and technical boundaries, and this just takes us that little bit further, gives the service to the people at the edge of the network, and then eventually the new technologies will push the capacity in the fibre network or the copper network a bit further, and they'll be taken over. But at the moment, as a stopgap, certainly helps these communities, especially in the rural areas.
Transmitter at the local exchange relays the high-speed connection on to local residents who need special equipment to get hooked up. It all seems to work. And this is kind of what it looks like if you send a clip recorded on your iPad or on your iPhone or some other device into the system, and then by email you send a clip back. You can get video out of Bute, and you can do this streaming as well. A couple of miles away, online form filling for animal passports and the ability to do general research on stock is changing lives on one local farm.
It's very good for looking up at the pedigree side of things and looking up for new bulls and looking back the depth of pedigree in cattle. It's a lot handier than doing it on paper.
Has your life changed?
My life hasn't changed. Maybe my wife and kids, they could get more options of doing things with it.
So you're still up dealing with the animals. You're not Facebooking like mad or tweeting or anything like that.
No, I'm not into that at all. No.
I'm very well. Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
This Skype call from the middle of nowhere worked fine, but is white space really the shape of things to come?
And that is the Isle of Bute. Can you see it?
I can indeed. It's an amazing view, boy.
Well, there are a number of technologies that are being tried out to fill in these gaps, the final 10% that is never going to get fibre. We've got this, white space, we've got satellites, people are talking about using 3G. In a sense, they're all going to be intermediate technologies because you can see the demand for proper fibre building. Once people get something a bit better, they want to move on to the next stage. So I think there will be pressure. It might be intermediate, but it could fill a useful gap.
This and this were both revolutionary in their day, and it's hard to think of life anywhere without the postal service or telephones. And now the need for broadband isn't far behind, but the economics remain a massive challenge.
As part of working with the government, they've got a very strong strategy in Scotland to deliver future broadband services to the whole of the country. So we've got to see how we can fit this into that mix, where I think public subsidy, public investment, along with industry investment from people like Bute is going to be important. But I think it sets an opportunity for very small communities that probably we were struggling with up to a year ago.
So far, no one's worked out how to move an island, even if they wanted to. So even with the regular ferry service, Bute will always be geographically remote. But the experiment here shows that technology can close the digital divide. And in that sense at least, Bute is no longer quite so far down the water.